He left us to survive alone. Now he wants to be our father again. The night he walked out. The night my father abandoned us. The rain in Cleveland, Ohio fell like it was angry at the world. I was 9 years old, standing barefoot on the cold kitchen tiles, watching my mother beg a man who no longer looked like my father. "David, please," she whispered, gripping the edge of the table like it was the only thing keeping her upright. He didn't look at her. He didn't look at me. He just shoved clothes into a duffel bag with hands that shook, not from guilt, but from impatience. "I can't breathe in this house anymore," he said. "Everything is pressure. Bills. Sickness. Struggle." My little brother, Noah, clung to my leg, crying softly. Dad stepped over him like he was an obstacle. That was the moment something broke inside me. He paused at the door, turned once, and said words that would echo in my head for years. "I need to save myself." Then the door slammed.
No budwie. No promise.
No plan. Just silence. And a future he decided we weren't worth staying for. That night, my mother cried until morning. I didn't cry at all. I learned something instead. Some people don't leave because they're lost. They leave because staying would require strength they don't have. Before I continue, please subscribe to my channel to see more interesting stories. Thank you. Growing up without a father. Life without him didn't pause to feel sorry for us. By 12, I was helping my mother clean offices in downtown Cleveland, scrubbing floors that smelled like regret and stale coffee. By 15, I learned how to stretch a single paycheck across rent, groceries, and Noah's asthma medication. Dad never called. Not on birthdays. Not when Mom collapsed at work and spent weeks in a hospital bed. Not when I graduated high school with honors and an empty seat where a father should have been. We heard rumors instead. He was in Phoenix, Arizona, starting over. Then Dallas, Texas, with a new job. Then married again. No kids this time. A clean slate. A new life built on the wreckage of ours. Mom never spoke badly of him. That hurt more than if she had. "People make choices," she'd say quietly, "and we live with them." But I did speak badly of him. In my head. In my heart. In the vows I made to myself at night, that if he ever came back, he wouldn't get forgiveness just because time had passed. Time doesn't heal abandonment. It only teaches you how to survive without what you needed most. The letter from a stranger. The letter arrived on a Tuesday in Boston, Massachusetts, where I was living by then, working as a financial analyst, finally stable, finally breathing. The envelope had my name written carefully, almost respectfully. Inside was a single page. "Emma, I know I don't deserve to write you, but I've changed. Life humbled me. I'm sick now, and it's made me see what I lost. I want to make things right. I want to be your father again." My hands shook, not from sadness, but from rage. He signed it Dad. I laughed out loud. Dad? A man who missed every version of me that mattered now wanted access to the woman I'd become. I called my mother immediately. She was quiet for a long time. "He called me too," she admitted. "He says he's a new man." I closed my eyes. That's when I realized something terrifying. He wasn't just back. He was desperate. And desperate people don't return for love. They return because they need something. The first reunion. We met in Chicago, neutral ground. He looked smaller than I remembered. Thinner. Older. His confidence worn down to something rehearsed. "Emma," he said, standing up too quickly. "You look amazing." I didn't hug him. We sat across from each other, the space between us heavy with years he never lived. "I was young," he began. "Scared. I made mistakes." "No," I said calmly. "You made choices." His eyes watered. "I think about you every day." I leaned forward. "Then why didn't you show up even once?" Silence. He spoke about faith, about regret, about illness, about how life had punished him enough. Then he reached across the table. "I just want my children back." Children. Not forgiveness. Not accountability. Ownership. I smiled softly. That smile made him hopeful. He didn't know it yet, but this reunion wasn't about healing. It was about truth. And truth takes time to unfold. Letting him in on purpose. I agreed to keep talking to him. Not because I forgave him, but because I needed him to feel safe. I let him call me. Let him apologize. Let him cry about his regrets while I listened quietly from my apartment overlooking Lake Michigan. I told Noah everything. He wanted nothing to do with Dad. I'm not doing this for him, I told my brother. I'm doing this for us. Because revenge doesn't always come with shouting. Sometimes it comes with patience. Sometimes the most powerful justice is letting someone believe they've been welcomed back, only to face the full weight of what they abandoned. And as my father slowly leaned into hope, I began preparing the truth that would bring him to his knees. The illness that didn't add up. My father's illness became the centerpiece of every conversation. Stage 3 heart failure. Limited time. Regret sharpened by mortality. That's what he said. But something felt rehearsed. In Milwaukee, Wisconsin, during one of his treatments, I noticed how easily he moved, how quickly he laughed, how selectively weak he became only when the conversation turned emotional. He wanted sympathy. He wanted urgency. You don't know what it's like to wake up afraid every day, he told me, gripping his chest dramatically. I stared at him, thinking of my mother waking up afraid for 20 years, without help, without escape. I asked for his medical records, gently. Concerned daughter energy. He hesitated. Just a second too long. I'll send them, he said. He never did. That night, I called in a favor from an old college friend in healthcare administration. 2 days later, the truth landed in my inbox. Heart condition? Yes. Terminal?
No. Stable.
Managed. Non-life-threatening. He wasn't dying. He was performing. And suddenly, his return made terrifying sense. The financial questions. Once I stopped believing his tears, I started listening to his words. That's when the money talk began. Not directly. Never directly. How is work? Boston must be expensive. You've always been smart with numbers. In Indianapolis, over coffee, he sighed dramatically. I made some bad investments, he admitted. Trusted the wrong people. I nodded, silent. I don't need much, he added quickly. Just family. Family. But family doesn't ask how much you earn before asking how you're doing. I ran a background check. Lawsuits.
Debt.
A failed real estate deal in Nevada. Medical bills, he exaggerated. A second wife who divorced him and took what little stability he had left. My father wasn't here for forgiveness. He was here for rescue. And the most painful realization? If I'd been poor, broken, or struggling, he would have never come back at all. Bringing my brother into the room, I invited him to St. Louis, Missouri, saying Noah would be there. My father lit up. My son, he said proudly, as if he'd earned the word. Noah didn't hug him, didn't smile,
Didn't soften.
You left, Noah said flatly. Mom almost died. Emma raised me. My father's eyes filled with tears, on cue. I was weak, he whispered. Noah leaned forward. Then don't come back pretending you're strong now. The room went quiet. For the first time, my father looked afraid. Because forgiveness from one child might be a fluke. But rejection from both? That's a mirror he couldn't look away from. Still, he tried. And I let him. Because the closer he leaned in, the harder the fall would be. The offer he didn't expect. In Denver, Colorado, I made him an offer. I've been thinking, I said casually, about what you said, about family. His hands trembled around his coffee cup. I want to help you, I continued. But not with money. Confusion flickered across his face. I want you to tell the truth, I said. All of it. On record. I explained my work, financial ethics, personal accountability projects. I want your story, I said. What you did, why you left, what it cost us. He hesitated, then smiled. He thought this was redemption. He thought this was his comeback. He didn't realize he was about to confess to abandonment. In his own words, with no edits, no excuses. And once truth is spoken publicly, it never belongs to the speaker again. The confession begins. We filmed in Nashville, Tennessee. Warm lights. Neutral background. Just him and the camera. I sat behind it, silent. "Why did you leave your family?" I asked. He swallowed. "I chose myself," he said softly. "I was tired of struggling." "Did you think about your children?" "No," he admitted. "I thought they'd be okay without me." Each word felt like a blade. He talked about freedom, about relief, about starting over. And for the first time in my life, I didn't interrupt him. Because this wasn't for me. This was for the ending he didn't see coming. By the time we wrapped, he looked lighter, cleansed. "I feel forgiven already," he said. I smiled. The storm always feels calm right before it breaks. When the story went live, I didn't warn him. That was intentional. The edited video went live on a quiet Sunday morning while I was in Seattle, Washington, watching fog crawl over the harbor like it knew something heavy was coming. The title was simple, neutral, almost gentle. A father's confession, choosing himself over his children. No names.
No accusations.
Just his voice, his face, his words. By noon, it had crossed 50,000 views. By evening, comments poured in, people recognizing pieces of themselves in abandoned children, angry mothers, broken homes. And then someone tagged him. His phone rang nonstop.
Min stajat silent.
That night, I checked my email. Subject line. "Emma, please call me." For the first time since he left us, my father wasn't running from consequences. They were chasing him. Reputation is a fragile thing. I met him 2 days later in Sacramento, California. He looked wrecked. "They're calling me a monster," he said, voice cracking. "My church asked me to step back. My employer put me on leave." I said nothing. "They don't know the full story," he pleaded. "You have to explain." I didn't say anything. I replied calmly. "You did." That's when he understood. This wasn't revenge built on lies. It was accountability built on truth. "Take it down," he begged. "I'll do anything." Anything. That word sat between us like a loaded weapon. But I wasn't done. Because consequences shouldn't just hurt reputations. They should teach responsibility. The apology tour. He started reaching out, to my mother, to Noah, to extended family in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Public apologies. Long messages. Carefully worded remorse. My mother called me, exhausted. "He wants me to say he tried," she said. "He wants forgiveness, so people will stop judging him." That's when I realized the deepest truth. He wasn't apologizing because he understood the pain. He was apologizing because he hated being seen as the villain. I arranged one final meeting. Neutral.
Controlled.
San Diego, California. This time, I brought paperwork. The line between help and responsibility. I slid the documents across the table. "What's this?" he asked. "A family trust," I said. "For Noah's medical needs. Mom's retirement. Emergency funds." His eyes lit up. "But," I added, "your name isn't on it." Confusion turned to fear. "You want my money?" he asked. "No," I said. "I want your accountability." I explained the terms. He would contribute monthly. No public credit. No dad title. No access to our lives. Just responsibility, finally paid forward. His hands shook. "So, I don't get my family back," he whispered. I looked him in the eye. "You don't get to reclaim what you abandoned. You only get to repair what you damaged." Choosing who I was.
He signed.
Not because he wanted to, but because he had no other way to quiet the storm he'd created. As he stood to leave, he reached for me instinctively. I stepped back. "I hope one day," he said, "you'll call me Dad again." I shook my head gently. "That name is earned in the moments you stay," I replied. "Not the years you return." When he walked away, I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. Because revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about refusing to let them escape the truth. And I was no longer the little girl on cold kitchen tiles. I was the woman who finally decided, who deserved access to her heart. when the illness became real. The call came while I was in Portland, Oregon, standing in line for coffee I didn't even want. "He's in the hospital," my mother said. "This time it's serious." For a moment, I didn't breathe. I hated that my first instinct was doubt, that his past lies had trained me to question even his pain. In Boise, Idaho, I stood at the foot of his hospital bed.
Tubes.
Machines. The quiet rhythm of a heart that had finally begun to fail honestly. He looked small again. Not manipulative. Not strategic. Just human. "I didn't fake this," he whispered weakly, reading my face. "I know," I said softly. And that scared me more than anger ever had. The weight of being right. Guilt arrived quietly. Not because I had lied. Not because I had exaggerated. But because justice had worked. The trust fund payments were consistent. My mother's life eased. Noah's health stabilized. Everything I wanted happened. Yet as I sat alone in Salt Lake City, staring at snow-covered streets, I wondered if punishment felt different when it outlived its purpose. Was I still holding him accountable? Or was I holding on to control? I realized something uncomfortable. Revenge feels clean at first. But if you cling too long, it starts to stain you too. The letter he didn't send. A nurse handed me an envelope in Reno, Nevada. "He asked me to give this to you, if he couldn't say it himself," she said. Inside was a letter, shaky handwriting, no theatrics. "Emma, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even deserve understanding. I just need you to know I see it now. Not the damage. The absence. The silence I left you in. If being your father is impossible, let me at least be a man who admits he failed." I folded the letter slowly. For the first time, his words weren't about relief. They were about responsibility. And that changed something in me. The question no one asks. He survived the surgery. Weeks later, we met one last time in Asheville, North Carolina, where mountains rise quietly, like they're listening. "I'm not asking for your name," he said, "or your love." "Then what are you asking for?" I asked. He swallowed. "To live with what I did, without pretending it didn't matter." That was the moment I understood. The greatest punishment wasn't public shame, or financial responsibility, or distance. It was clarity. Seeing your past clearly, and being unable to escape it. Redefining Dad. Before leaving, I said something I'd never planned to say. "You don't get to be my father," I told him. "But you can be someone who didn't run when it mattered at the end." He nodded, tears slipping down his face. "I'll take that," he whispered. And for the first time, he wasn't negotiating. He was accepting. As I drove away, the sky burned orange behind the mountains. Some endings don't come with reconciliation. They come with truth. And sometimes, that's the most mercy anyone gets. The invitation he didn't expect. The invitation arrived at his small apartment in Tucson, Arizona. Plain envelope, my handwriting.
No explanation.
Just a date and location. He showed up anyway. The venue was modest, tucked into a quiet street in Santa Fe, New Mexico, a community center with warm lights and folding chairs. He hesitated at the door, unsure if he deserved to step inside. When he did, he froze. The room was filled with people. Not family. Children. Teenagers. Adults. All from broken homes. I stepped forward. "This is a foundation," I said calmly. "For children abandoned by parents who walked away when life got hard." His breath caught. "And you're here," I continued, "because your story helped build it. The role he could never rewrite." I handed him a seat in the front row. Not on the stage. "You won't speak," I told him gently. "This isn't redemption theater." He nodded, eyes wet. One by one, speakers shared their stories. Pain, survival, resilience. Some spoke about fathers who never returned. Some about mothers who stayed and broke quietly. Some about becoming whole, without closure. Every word landed on him, like a reckoning. When the final speaker finished, I stepped forward. "This foundation isn't about second chances," I said. "It's about making sure abandonment doesn't get the last word." The room stood in applause. He stayed seated. For the first time in his life, he understood his role. Not the hero, not the victim. The lesson. On his knees, not for mercy. After the crowd dispersed, he approached me slowly. "I see it now," he said, voice trembling. "This is what I should have done instead of leaving." Then he did something I didn't expect. He knelt. Not dramatically. Not publicly. Just a tired man lowering himself under the weight of his own past. "I don't deserve the name Dad," he whispered. "But I beg you, let my failure mean something." I placed my hand on his shoulder. "It already does," I said. And that was the moment he cried, not for forgiveness, but for truth fully faced. Letting go without forgetting. We didn't reconcile. We didn't rebuild a family. And we didn't pretend time erased anything. What we did was harder. We let go of the fantasy that abandonment can be undone. He continued funding the foundation quietly.
No interviews. No press.
No public applause. Just responsibility carried forward. In Charleston, South Carolina, I watched the ocean swallow the horizon and felt something unfamiliar.
Peace.
Not because he returned,
But because I no longer needed him to.
the name I chose to carry. Years later, when people ask about my father, I tell them the truth. He left. He came back. And he finally understood. I didn't gain a dad. I gained clarity. And clarity gave me freedom. The little girl on cold kitchen tiles grew up and learned this. You don't owe people access to your life just because they share your blood. And forgiveness doesn't always mean reunion. Sometimes, the most powerful justice is allowing someone to live fully aware of the cost of their absence, while you move forward whole. My name is Emma Davidson, and I didn't get my father back. I got my life. Thank you for listening to my story. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my videos. Thank you.